Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you here for Making Connections, highlighting or highlights from the OHC regional meetings. We have a great panel scheduled to take you through all the regional meetings that were happening across the country in the past year. My name is Emily Rome, and I'm a contractor with ICF. We help put on the regional meetings and worked with all of the lovely humans that you are going to hear from. First, as you guys are all pros by now, a little bit about CVent. You can network with attendees, you can engage in the community boards, access the schedule. As we're winding down, you can go through the speaker profiles. If you missed anything, the recordings will be up, and so you can watch those. We do have a live Q&A for this session, so please put all of your questions into there. We will get to hear from the panelists any questions that you have or anything that you would like them to follow up on. Gamification is still going on, so get yourself on that leaderboard. And with that, I'm going to introduce our speakers. We've got Jimmy Stewart, who is the Director of Home Ownership for the Chicago Housing Authority. Jimmy recently had a Housing Counseling Today article written about him, so please go check that out. And next, we've got Ernesto Martinez. He's the Director of Asset Building Programs for the Mission Economic Development Agency. Yvette comes to us from the Housing Counseling Program as a Housing Counseling Program Manager for Rural Community Assistance Corporation. And then we've got two people from HUD, Rhonda Rivera. She's the Division Director for Outreach and Capacity Building, and Anthony Forte, the Columbus Field Office Director. Everyone here participated in a different regional meeting, so they are going to share their knowledge. We'll hear it from a HUD perspective and from those that participated on panels. I'm going to do a quick overview of the session, and then we will move through the speakers. Once again, please put your questions in the chat as you think of them, and we will have the panelists and myself answer those as we get to that section. So, big picture about the regional meetings. There were 8 different meetings covering Atlanta, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Seattle, Boston, and Columbus. So a wide range of the country. All of the meetings were in person, which people were hungry for after being locked away from COVID and couldn't, we'd done so much virtually, so people were really excited to have something in person again. The meetings brought together HCAs, banks, lenders, New American Resettlement agencies, as well as prospective HCAs. So all in all, we had about 800 attendees. As the meetings gained popularity and more people found out about them, the attendance grew. I'm going to put in a plug here. There will be more in the coming year. So get excited about the information you hear, because you may get to participate depending on when that schedule comes out, or you can travel to them as well. So really, we focused the meetings. There were 2 kind of segments. Each meeting had topics that were tailored to each region, so it was meaningful to the participants there. However, each meeting covered sessions that focused on housing, New Americans, and then a session that focused on FDIC and lenders. And it was really evident that individuals and groups, after learning more about the various topics, were hungry to come together and make connections and then help solve those problems. So a couple of examples that I saw: there was a session talking about language access, and there were many questions and comments about how challenging it is if you're a small nonprofit. How do you provide language access in a meaningful way with budgets, etc.? And there was an attendee that had a really low-cost technology, but that was also really effective. So he shared that with the audience, and people were able to take away a tool that they could then take back to their agency. During the New American sessions, the participants explored with panel members how their HCAs could partner with the agencies to best serve New Americans. There were often additional sets of considerations, as you can imagine, and those of you that have been in the sessions this morning, we've talked a lot about New Americans and the challenges in housing them. So it was dialogue in each of those sessions that people could explore more. It was just really amazing to see groups come together and solve their community's most pressing housing needs. Also, people were able to, Rhonda's going to talk a little more about this, but they could learn how to become an HCA and do the paperwork on site. I'll also give a plug. You do not have to wait for a regional meeting to become an HCA or start exploring that process. Rhonda will talk more about that, and we have some resources at the end for you all. So, with that overview, I am going to turn it over to Jimmy, and he is going to take you through his experience at one of the regional meetings.
Thank you so much, Emily, and good afternoon to the entire housing counseling community. My name is Jimmy Stewart, and I have the honor and the privilege of being able to manage the homeownership programs right here in the city of Chicago for the Chicago Housing Authority. Right off the bat, I'll say that the regional meetings were fantastic. I didn't know what to expect when I first attended. It was the first time I had ever attended one, but I'm so glad that I did because, the programs that we manage here in Chicago, we offer housing counseling from two programs that are local. And, it was really great when I was able to meet with the housing counseling regionally because I was able to meet so many more counselors that were there and services that they offer throughout the city of Chicago. So, for me, I'm always looking at ways to access resources and share information and opportunities for our residents. And so being at this meeting, I was able to meet many more housing counselors and I was able to bring back some things for our families. The other thing that I would say about it was that, I really enjoyed the fact that the topics were local in nature. And so, we talked about a lot of things that hit home right here in the city of Chicago. Some of those things would be, for example, the equity in housing counseling, which focuses on combating appraisal bias. And that's something that I'm really passionate about, being born and raised in Chicago and seeing this happen over and over throughout the years. It was really great to hear and get a better understanding of that, but more importantly, to talk to some of the advocacy, the people who are advocating for change and improvement in that particular area. So that was just great to be a part of that discussion. I would say the other thing is, you kind of hinted on this, Emily, was I didn't know that a public housing authority could become a HUD-approved counseling agency. And it was weird because we had been talking about that or just kind of toying with the idea of that. And I didn't know. So when I joined the meeting and I heard that that was a possibility, instantly I started networking and connecting with key individuals who would be able to help us and just to share more information about that possibility and what it would look like if it was something that the housing authority would be interested in pursuing. I would say the other thing that I took away from the meeting was that the insight on the HUD counselor, the standards that the counselors had to abide by, the accountability that was put on them and placed on them, the different resources that is being offered to them in order to ensure that they are successful with delivering their services. And, through the conversations and the discussions and the questions that they were asking, and even in their presentations, I can tell that housing counselors I can really get a feel for their personal commitments. There were so many stories that were exchanged, but the way that they advocate for change and improvement to just better help our clients, that really made me feel good. I walked away from the meeting with a even greater level of respect for housing counselors and, what they offer to our community. It's a lot. And I couldn't have been more proud to have been working with you guys through our partnerships. And so overall, A+ for the regional meetings. I'm looking forward to the next one. And having said that, I'm going to turn it over to Ernesto to share a little bit more about his experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jimmy. My name is Ernesto Martinez. I am the Director of Asset Building Programs here at the Mission Economic Development Agency, MEDA, in San Francisco. Kind of just a little bit of how I came to the meetings and how I came to the meeting that we had over here in San Francisco. MEDA, we're a 50-year-old comprehensive community development organization. We do housing counseling, small business counseling, vocational training, affordable housing development, et cetera. And we've been an HCA now for decades. We've been doing HUD housing counseling for 15 plus years, and we're the proud members and proud members of the Unidos US affiliate intermediary group, United Wealth and Housing Alliance. And as I said, we joined the San Francisco meeting, which we really, really loved. It was a fantastic gathering of, as Jimmy said, not only the housing counseling agencies that were there, but potential housing counseling agencies that wanted to learn how to do this work, and how their existing services could potentially fit into that. So while there was great presentations, I would say really the biggest benefit that I saw from these convenings regionally was the conversations that we had between organizations. I was able to talk to other organizations from throughout the Bay Area that were also housing counseling agencies, how they worked, what the challenges they faced are, and how they navigated the HUD regulations, the guidelines, ensuring that they're able to really meet the clients and their community where they're at, while at the same time ensuring that they're compliant with all the regulations. One of the other really fantastic aspects of it was that we were able to talk to non-HCAs that were thinking about becoming HCAs. And I think one of the big conversations that we had with other organizations, especially ones that are community-based nonprofits, it really is, we're doing this type of service and we don't want to change that. Right? We are providing these kinds of supports to our clients, to our community members, to our participants. And we don't want to necessarily have to do this entirely different service to become a HUD housing counseling agency. And it was really great to have a conversation around, our experience at Meta around, you can keep doing all the amazing work that you're doing, but really, HUD is there to help guide on how you can not change your format, but make it applicable and allowable underneath the regulations of HUD housing counseling. So that was a great conversation and theme that I saw throughout the regional community in San Francisco, and one that we kind of took home and we kind of continued in conversations. I can say that it's been great because of the fact that we have a partner agency that we had met there that was doing similar work to Meta, that we wanted to learn about what they were doing. They wanted to learn about what we were doing. And, over the past few months, have really been able to foster a relationship to the point where we actually submitted a joint application for another type of grant underneath HUD. So, these types of meetings that had were really fantastic because you get to not only talk around, as Jimmy said, very hyper local issues, but for us, we were able to look at, what are partner agencies that we could potentially talk to that have similar goals and alignment as us. And it was, for us, a real tangible result in terms of that partnership that we developed. That's only one, but I'm sure, as we keep going to these meetings, they will continue to grow. And it was also really fantastic that we were able to, in San Francisco, it's San Francisco and then it's the Bay Area, the fact that it was a regional conversation, not just a city-based conversation. So we were able to talk to our more rural partners in the local communities, talk to organizations across the Bay, talk to organizations in different neighborhoods, and learn and exchange best practices and ideas that really allowed us to think more thoroughly around the fact that while we're very focused on one neighborhood in San Francisco, how it's, trans-Bay, cross-regional approaches and partnerships really that we have to foster. So I would say that was my biggest takeaway in being able to attend these meetings, speak with our fellow HCAs and potential other organizations. And as always, talk to our lovely folks over at HUD around ongoing movements, supports, TA. So, I think my biggest takeaway was simply partnerships, as well as HUD being there as a TA provider and really being present in one of their field offices. So thank you for this chance to be able to talk with y'all. Let me pass it over to Yvette Quesada from RCAC. Thank you so much, Yvette.
Thank you so much, Ernesto. Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon. I'm here in Southern California, so still morning time for me. As Emily mentioned, I am the Housing Counseling Program Manager at RCAC, and I was fortunate enough to be able to attend the San Francisco regional meeting. I was able to meet Ernesto in person and also to participate as a panelist in the Seattle regional meeting this past May. I think one of the major benefits of in terms of for RCAC as an intermediary was providing information to the audience, which included HUD-approved agencies, non-HUD-approved agencies, and some folks who just aren't aware of the different types of HUD-approved agencies, including an intermediary. So it was a good opportunity for RCAC to have kind of the kind of the visibility so that we could talk about what an intermediary does and specifically what our CAC does as a HUD-approved intermediary, which provides housing counseling services through a network of affiliates or branches. And so for us specifically at our CAC, we have about 15 subgrantees or agencies, and we serve the 13 Western states. So it provided us the opportunity to talk a little bit more about what our CAC does, but it also provided opportunities for those HUD-approved agencies or housing counseling agencies that just wanted more information on the different types of HUD-approved agencies and what an intermediary could do in terms of the benefits of working with an intermediary. Some of the questions or the feedback that were expressed by the participants were revolving around areas of, counseling and what was allowable in terms of costs, what were some of the requirements for HUD approval, and, what happens when you can, possibly lose all of your housing counselors. Because we do work in the rural area, some of our agencies may only have one or two HUD approved or HUD certified counselors. And so what are the ramifications and how can that affect the HUD's agency approval with the loss of HUD certified counselors? So there's a lot of talk about that. And then a lot of positive feedback, just, getting that information and the opportunity to talk to HUD directly and to have the HUD folks in the room, and the opportunity to possibly meet your HUD POC in person. And so last year I had that opportunity to meet Joel in person. I do have a new HUD POC, but it was nice to kind of, put the face to who you're talking to, on a monthly basis, sometimes on a weekly basis, depending on what's going on, whether there's a grant happening. So having that opportunity to meet in person in general, as Emily said, especially after COVID, was really beneficial, I think, to have those conversations, to start those conversations. And I know Ernesto's saying partnership, right? And so I think my word would be networking, right? And making those connections, starting those conversations, possibly that would lead to adding agencies into our intermediary network. But overall, I think just having those discussions and having that, picking each other's brains and, best practices, what are you doing when you run into this issue? So I think it was just super beneficial. I'm looking forward to possibly attending future regional meetings. But that was my main takeaway, is just making those connections, providing information on the benefits of working with an intermediary and having that advocate and that middle person between HUD and the agency. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Rhonda Rivera.
Okay, hi, thanks, Yvette. I'm Rhonda Rivera. I'm in Southern California, out of Santa Ana, California. So good morning to those on the west and good afternoon to all on the east. I too, I am the division director in outreach and capacity building in the Office of Housing Counseling, also known as OCB, and the staff in our OCB. The staff of OCB has the responsibility of reviewing applications for those that that have applied to become locally HUD approved. So I too attended two regional meetings, one in San Francisco last year, as well as the Seattle event earlier this year in May. And on day two of these meetings was focused on the HUD approval participation and what that process is all about. So to be there live, after doing so much virtually, remotely, webinar based and the like, it was great to finally get out and meet the agencies that are already participating in our program, whether they be an affiliate or subgrantee or even the current locally approved agencies, just to meet them and greet them and offer our assistance, especially for those who are thinking about getting their own designation and still remain in the network of an intermediary or a state housing finance agency that participate in our housing counseling program. So that was a big plus for even HUD staff to attend and meet. And like Yvette said, even You may even meet your local point of contact from Office of Housing Counseling. So the bit on the approval process, and again, everybody looking for that nice letter they get that you're congratulations, you are now approved as a local housing counseling agency, and that letter means that the agency meets the basic requirements and conditions that are prescribed by HUD. And that includes the requirement that the agency has a HUD certified counselor that passed an exam and pursuant to our housing counseling regulations and works for a participating agency. That's the official letter saying you meet all those requirements. For future regional meetings that are coming up that are planned to be happening in fiscal year 25, our staff, OCB staff, will continue to participate in those regional meetings, and again, to continue to offer technical assistance and guidance on the approval process at these regional meetings. So we will continue to offer our assistance. And by the way, during FY24, which is winding down this month, I just wanted to let you know that we have approved already this year 25 local housing counseling agencies, and some of those, about 5 or 6 of them, were already participating in a network of an intermediary or a state housing finance agency. So that's still great. We encourage those that are currently with an intermediary in a network as a subgrantee or affiliate but don't have that local housing counseling designation. Doesn't mean you have to drop out of the network. You can remain in the network as a local. It just may give you more financial benefit opportunities with the local designation. And in some cases, if you're thinking of joining a network, it's possible that the intermediary or the state agency may ask you to also apply to get your local designation while also joining their network. The intermediaries in the states have their own criteria on who can join and how they can join. So you may have to reach out and find out those specifics if you're interested in that venue. And just to let you know, there is no timeline of when applications can be submitted. We receive applications all year round. We don't shut down approvals whatsoever. We welcome the requests, and if you need additional assistance, if you're not sure about this process, we do have on the HUD Exchange a toolkit. It's called the Housing Counseling Application Eligibility Tool, and we will be showing you the link to that webpage and to that link. And that is a very valuable tool for an agency who's not quite sure what this approval means, what the application information that we request, what that all means. The tool will walk you through, ask you questions, ask the agency organization questions about the particulars. And if based on those answers, it will determine if you're maybe a good candidate to meet our requirements and submit an application. If the results come back that you're not quite ready, it will also tell you what you need to work on and improve and get ready to submit when you're ready with the information. So again, the application tool is another way to get the additional information. And finally, again, we welcome any and all requests. Our application team, when you are thinking about it and you see the information on the web of how to submit, it talks about an application advisor. Our team, our OCB team, application team, are the advisors, and they will meet with you, set up an appointment, conference call type meeting to go over whatever your questions are or look at the material that you submitted before we really zoom in and look in and really formally review the application. There might be some pieces missing, and that's the purpose of the advisory role. So without further ado, those are the basic information on the approval process. And of course, if you have any more questions after this session or after the conference, you can send an email to our housing counseling email box at housing.counseling@hud.gov and put your questions in, and we will be more than glad to assist you. And with that information, thank you for your attention. And now I will pass the microphone to Anthony Forte, our HUD Columbus Field Office Director. Anthony?
Well, thank you very much, Rhonda Rivera, and to all the rest of our panelists. Thank you very much for your observations and your overviews for this panel and for this session. This is going over the regional meetings that are held around the country. The one for mine was in Columbus, Ohio, in June of this year, and it truly was regional, encompassed the surrounding states as well. And with that, we were able to get a very large audience. Some of the observations for my presence here is looking at it from a field office perspective, and particularly for our division, field policy and management. And so things that I observed, as well as feedback that I received as a part of participation, is number one, for me, it was very important, very powerful, in order for us to hear about the Office of Housing Counseling, and particularly throughout FHA, all of the policy and the additional policies that, again, they were able to provide as a part of the overall session. And so from an informational perspective, that was very powerful from an informational perspective, as well as the funding and the other programs that was being identified for the general audience. And so, again, just from the ability to attend and the format and the agenda, very conducive for receiving timely on the spot information concerning policy, funding, and programs. Additionally, one of the good things was being able to hear about the Let's Make Home the Goal. And the Let's Make Home the Goal ended up being extremely effective marketing activity across the United States. And so as a part of the marketing efforts that were made, and I think recently there was some news about joining Zillow, or being able to reach even a larger audience. But being able to understand what Let's Make the Goal is and how the Let's Make the Goal is able to uplift the message about home ownership was extremely effective. In this case, I would definitely like to commend the comments made by Yvette Posada, that for the housing council agencies and the ones that were present and participating, one of the really powerful parts was the ability to learn from other housing council agencies. Everything from the best practices, as well as from the marketing efforts, as well as the efficiencies, the operational efficiencies within their organizations on what to do, how to do it better, and things of that nature. And so the training aspects that comes from the attendance at the regional meetings is very powerful, very gives you tools how to really be able to engage your audience and things of that nature. And then lastly, I would say the biggest part of it for me was we hosted a housing, what we call a HUD house party. And FPM does this across the country periodically through the year, particularly the month of June. And so for FPM and our house parties, our home ownership activities, to be able to coordinate with the also housing counseling was a very powerful and a very effective partnership for us for things that we were able to do. So those are my observations and some of the feedback that I received. Sorry for some of the background noise. I'm at another conference right now. You may have picked that up, but I would like to now turn it back over to Emily and to Rhonda. I will mute myself so that I don't get more feedback. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we would invite everyone to come on camera. We've got some time for Q&A, so don't be shy about asking your questions. Lindsay, do you want to help us run through any questions that are coming in?
Yes, this was great. And it was really an honor to be able to participate in some of these regional meetings. And it's great to hear all of your reflections. One of the questions that has come in is, how do you participate in regional meetings? How often are they held? I think that question might be for us, Emily, or if one of our
They're not set for next year, but they will all be publicized and you just have to register. They're all free to come. You would have to find your own transportation and lodging, but they're 2 days. And anyone can attend as long as, you're in this kind of group. So watch for the notices to come out. Oh, and Tammy is giving me a clue that all the locations are going to be released at the closing. So here's a plug to go to the closing and get that information.
That's great. Yes, and as you mentioned, on Hot Exchange, we have a page dedicated to our regional meetings. Another question folks asked was how they can get the minutes from the regional meetings, and if any of that information is shared. So if you go to the hotexchange.info trainings, housing, counseling, regional meetings, we'll circulate that link. You can see the content from all of the regional meetings that were held in the last year and see about information on the upcoming regional meetings that we'll be announcing at 3 o'clock.
And we also have a link to that resource in the resource slide on this for this session.
Great. I'll give it a moment for other questions to come in, but something I'd love to hear from folks reflecting on coming out of the regional meetings and having been a participant is what was the impact of being in person versus online? Obviously, we take advantage of every opportunity we have here and with our virtual conference to bridge the gap since we can't be everywhere at all times. But what were some of the benefits that you all experienced of being in person? And we can start from the beginning, maybe with Jimmy.
Thank you so much. I would say, I think Ernesto even mentioned this earlier, is that a couple actually mentioned this. Getting an opportunity to meet a lot of your leadership and those who kind of lead in this capacity in person, there was just such a wealth of knowledge that was in the room that cannot really be defined on an agenda. I engaged with so many people and just through regular conversation, talking about the different needs that we have or challenges. And you would be surprised how many people in the room had a solution to that or had similar challenges and they were working on ideas to overcome those things. The other thing I would say is, being able to meet in person just allowed us to really build up a stronger rapport with one another. We were able to watch and support one another in a professional environment. I love this community, and just being able to touch bases with the community and the people that I serve with, it's nothing like it. And I think it makes us stronger, and in turn, it makes us deliver better services for our residents who are within the housing community.
Thanks.
So you all have had some amazing feedback of what happened at the meetings. Anything that you'd like to see at future meetings?
So I don't know how the locations are decided, Emily, but maybe an opportunity for the public to maybe vote on a venue. I'm only about an hour away from San Diego, so I would say San Diego could be maybe one of the areas. So I'd like to say maybe some participation from our audience. Looks like I think we had over 1,600 people register, and just to kind of see what they're looking at in terms of venues or places that they would like for HUD to show up, because some of these agencies again are very small. Maybe they don't have the capacity or the funding to send their folks over to regional meetings that may be held elsewhere or too far away. So having something a little bit localized where maybe they can even drive to it, I think that would be super helpful.
Thank you. Anyone else want to weigh in? Ernesto, it looks like you're deep in thought.
Yeah, I think it was fantastic. I think a little bit to Yvette's point of, the regions. I'd love for conversations to come up around more, agendas around regional topics, predominantly around, the challenges being faced by housing counseling agencies. And know it was touched upon, but, every region, every area of the US is just so unique in terms of the challenges they're facing in housing. I think as much as we can get down to nitty-gritty solutions in the region, the better. So I think definitely if there's an intent to rotate the regions, maybe one in San Diego, one in LA, and the next one in Sacramento for the Northern California, like different challenges and different opportunities at the same time. So what are those challenges and opportunities when it comes to housing counseling?
Does anyone else want to weigh in? Okay, next questions, Lindsay.
Similarly, along that front, what are some of the additional content topics? I know you've mentioned, obviously, the information we've discussed at the regional meetings. Emily mentioned some of the themes and the topics we covered around serving new Americans, the unhoused population. Are there any additional topics that you think would be appropriate in particular for a regional meeting setting that we should be considering for future agendas?
Lindsay, again, I would advocate just for the rural areas and some of the challenges that they're facing, again, because we do serve the rural area and we have agencies that are small and may have just one or two HUD certified counselors. So some of those challenges and how they can maybe if they're not getting the support that they need, how can they get that support that they need to continue to operate and bring those services to their communities.
Everyone. Ernesto or Jimmy, any other specific topics? Or Anthony?
I'm not sure what the topic will be called, but one of the things that I see that I believe would be an improvement to the counseling resources here in Chicago is just making sure that the various agencies have a better understanding of the resources that exist out there for potential homeowners. I see some are better than others. And when I say some, not just the actual overall agency, but the counselors on the individual level, we seem to have some are just really sharp at not only they can go above and beyond what they offer, right? They know who else is offering something else that would be a solution to the client that they're serving. They know what down payment assistance is. They'll know where just other things are. And I think if we could facilitate some type of discussion and / workshop or something like that to just make sure that they stay abreast of the other things that are going on that could be helpful for the clients that they serve, separate and apart from their actual agency that they work at, I think would be a tremendous benefit to the residents.
And I will put a plug for anyone that's, Ernesto, I saw you come off. You can go next on the community board for looking to the future. You can give feedback there about what you would like to see, those of you in the audience at future meetings. Ernesto?
Yeah, super exciting. I think crowdsourcing kind of the topics to be covered makes the most sense, directly from the community. Another topic that I think might be interesting is the fact that I feel like a lot of our organizations handle different parts of the housing spectrum, right? Some folks work mostly with, unhoused populations, and some folks are very focused on post-purchase or pre-purchase or rental. I'd be curious to see, if there's a conversation topic around how do you operate within your portion of that housing services spectrum, but also how do you either build out that spectrum for your community or develop partnerships around the other ends, right? So that if you are a rental counseling agency predominantly, how do you partner with a pre-purchase focused counseling agency or an eviction defense services agency? So thinking around how to make those connections between the different portions of the spectrum.
That's really helpful. I think in addition to, you all have talked about how important it is to talk about what's relevant regionally, as well as the topics and taking advantage of who's in the room. It sounds like in addition, in our regional meetings, we have the opportunity to think about not just folks hearing from HUD, and learning from HUD, but also that sort of peer exchange that happens when folks get to hear and learn from each other and relate and share models that are working across their agencies. That makes a lot of sense to me. We have additional time for questions. I don't have any other questions on tap at the moment.
Don't be shy. We have a wealth of knowledge here that are willing to ask, or answer your questions.
Well, this is Anthony, and I guess I'll add to what has been a couple of elements. One, obviously, the energy and the dynamic of being in person is so much greater than just online. It's not just the energy in the room, but the ability to make very real and personal and vital connections with the other participants that are in attendance. And as a part of that, again, you get to pick up and to hear and understand organizations that are similar to yours and things of that nature. If there's any identified to be added, my perspective was across the state of Ohio, and that being that, it attracted housing council agencies across the state. But we had some entities that are statewide entities. And so their ability to not only network, but the ability to then market themselves to the different parts of the state. We have some parts of our state that is an hour in distance from a consumer being able to reach a housing counseling entity and things of that nature. And so different ways that they can, kind of penetrate their audience base, how they can market themselves better, how they can really get to where the needs are, and things of that nature. I think, could be one of those topics where people learn from one another. And so the opportunity for that to be engaged, I would say, is something that would be a topic. Yeah. Thanks.
Anthony, you all modeled that so well in Columbus with the house party event and pairing up some of those opportunities that you had for promoting the work that you all are doing locally and in concert with these regional meetings. And I think that that's something we know we want to see happen in other regional meetings. Especially maximize that energy. I loved getting to be in Columbus while that was happening. We know folks as well, in terms of a little sneak peek behind the scenes. When we go about planning these regional meetings, we are often reaching out to the counseling agencies that are in the area. We want folks to be able to hear from their peers, and we have different panel topics that we might ask you to speak on. So certainly, if you are out there and you're itching to present to your peers and to be part of our regional meetings sessions and actually join us in creating the content, I think our speakers here have some great experience. Hopefully, they can attest to the value of being part of that experience as well. We're happy to hear from you, and you can always reach out to your HUD POC and reach out to us through the HUD Exchange to let us know if you'd like to be tapped. It's a great opportunity. I think folks have really felt energized by being able to share with a like-minded group all the great work they're doing and also get people's input and feedback. Great. We also have one question, and we will circulate and follow up after the session on access to the information on becoming a HUD-approved housing counseling agency. So Rhonda, folks are asking for a link to the toolkit. We are posting that. We will also share it on the CVET platform. But on the HUD Exchange, you can have we have a toolkit that you can walk through that shows you how to determine your eligibility to become a HUD-approved housing counseling agency and all the steps that it takes. Anything else you want to add on that, Rhonda, before we
No, that HUD approval link process with the toolkit and the other guidance is all right there at their fingertips. But again, they can always reach out and contact us. No problem.
Final call for questions. Anything, Lindsay? Oh, Anthony, you came off mute. Did you want to add any last thoughts?
Well, yeah, I would say aside from, call for questions here, some of the elements I think that is also valuable and haven't really gotten a lot of feedback on is the level of follow-up after the event, whether it is among the participants, and things of that nature. Like I said, a lot of the feedback was the value of being in person and the ability to learn from their counterparts, as housing counseling agencies and various topics and things of that nature. But the ability for them to continue to engage after the event. And like I said, for us in the state of Ohio, and the fact that we have, rural parts that don't connect to major cities, and therefore most of our housing agencies are in our major cities, easy for those ones to then have overlapping jurisdiction as a part of overlapping jurisdiction. So, okay, how do we refer to one another? How do we refer clients to one another? Certain agencies have strengths that other ones don't have. So the ability for them to have follow-up and however to monitor that follow-up or encourage that follow-up and to encourage their interaction on a routine basis. Yeah, not just regional event, but on a routine basis, how they can engage with each other and to build on their strengths and things like that. I think that would be something that, not trying to make work for anybody or anything like that, but that would be a good connection as well.
Thanks, Anthony. All right, Lindsay, any last questions? If not, I'm going to share some resources and we'll close it out. Okay. Like I said, we have a resource page. You can check out the past regional meetings, special initiatives and partnerships, check out your HUD local offices, and then like Rhonda talked about, the forms and documents to submit agency applications for HUD approval. So check those out. And like Lindsay and others mentioned, you can always reach out to your HUD POC if you have specific questions or want to engage with the regional meetings at a higher level as a potential presenter. We have one final session closing with OHC leadership. All good things must come to an end. So we'll give you a few minutes back so you can have lunch, or I guess those of you in the afternoon catch up on some emails before you attend that session and learn about where the next round of regional meetings will be. Thank you so much to all of our presenters for not only helping us at the regional meetings, but also presenting during this session and sharing their wealth of knowledge. Thanks, everyone.